Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your friend Bats. My name is Jared, and this is Why I Love Nightwing. But before I get started, if you love Nightwing, give this video a like, and please let me know down below in the comments why you love Nightwing. He's a very special character to a lot of people, and I want to hear why you love him down below. Thanks. All right, so why I love Nightwing. When I was a young kid, I loved Batman 66, and I didn't picture myself, and I didn't relate with Batman, but I related with Dick Grayson Robin. And as time went on, I would get really excited when I'd be watching Batman the Animated Series, and that episode had Robin in it. And when Batman Forever was coming out, I was like super pumped that like the progression of Batman in the movies was finally becoming more like the TV show and the animated series. And I was like, yes, we're on the right track. And I was, about to be 10 at the time. And so I was just really excited because it was, to me, Batman told better stories with Robin. And jump to the late 90s, I'm watching Batman the Animated Series when the art changed. And one episode was with Tim Drake. It was like the holiday episode. And I was like, why did they change Robin's design so hard? Like, they made him a little kid. He was in college. Is this show a prequel? And like the next episode I saw was the Tim Drake origin story, and I was like, oh, there's a new Robin. And so at this time, I was reading random Batman comics, specifically more older stuff, because I liked the colorful Silver Agey stuff, and so I'd find these beat up comics in like used bookstores and used record stores and stuff like that. And I would just read these old comics over and over again. And then around in like 97 or 98, somewhere around there, the Spawn movie came out, and I just fell in love with Spawn. And so I just read every Spawn comic available at the time. And that was kind of where I was really just into comics at that point. I'd read old Batman comics, but then for new stuff, I was keeping up with Spawn. And then, so as I discovered that issue, or that episode of Sins of the Father of the new Batman Adventures, at the end, Robin now comes back, or Dick Grayson comes back with long hair, and he says, you can't always be a boy wonder. And I was just like, whoa. And then, so I'm like, is there going to be two Robins? What's going on? And then I think the next episode is called Scratch My Back, and he was Nightwing. And my head exploded. I was like, oh, Robin grew up and became a new character. He became his own character. And my mind exploded. I was like, that's crazy. There's a new Robin. So I just went to my local comic shop and demanded answers, because that seemed like the most logical thing to do. And so what they did is they sold me Teen Titans, Tales of the Teen Titans number 44. They're like, here you go. This is the first appearance of Nightwing. And I don't know why they thought that was a good idea to sell 12-year-old me an issue of a series that's 44 issues in at this point. But I bought it and I read it, and I'm like, I have no idea who anyone is other than Dick Grayson. Like, I don't know who Deathstroke is. I don't know who Terra is. I don't know who Beast Boy, Starfire, Cyborg, Wonder Girl, I don't know any of these characters. And I'm like, but Dick Grayson became Nightwing. And I was like, that's cool. He has his own, I didn't even know what the Teen Titans were back then, right? And I was just like, okay, so this is like the Junior Justice League all right. And so I just kind of was like, all right. And then so I went and got the entire story of Judas Contract. It's one of the first like DC story arcs I ever read. And even though I didn't know who any of these characters were, I was super fascinated with it. And so I read all of those and I went back and I said, what's up with the other Robin? And so they had sold me like Batman Year 3. And so I read like this Dick Grayson origin story while he's also Nightwing. So we get those like jump back and forth, which is really a great story if you're, 13, 12 years old around there and you're trying to like learn these characters because you get the present day and the past tense. And it was really good. And then that's when, so they sold me Batman Year 3 and then they sold me, issues of Lonely Place of Dying, and I was just like, this is crazy, absolutely insane. And that just kind of kept me rolling. And so I kind of just jumped around in old Batman comics. I started reading 80s Batman. I started buying a couple of Titans books here and there. I was trying to start from the beginning because I was like, well, I'm going to get to the number one and I'm going to move forward. And it was, I realized after I read issue 1, I was like, this is awesome. Where's issue 2? And they're like, yeah, it's really expensive because it's the first appearance of Deathstroke. And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but so I can't get issue 2. They're like, unless you want to pay like $100. And I'm like, I'm 13 years old. I don't have $100 for a comic book. So I just started buying random Titans and anything that had like the cover of Nightwing on a Batman thing. And then I just finally was like, you know what? Kind of sick of Spawn buying that monthly, and so I'm gonna just jump into the Batman books monthly. And coincidentally enough, when I jumped into like, I decided I was gonna read Batman, Nightwing, and Robin. And so coincidentally enough, the first Nightwing that I picked up off the shelf that was new was Nightwing number 41. And coincidentally enough, I keep saying that, but it was the beginning of a new story arc. And so I kind of got to go in fresh, and it's like I learned about Bloodhaven and things that happened before in the first 40 issues. And just like Batman, you jump in and you just like kind of like, all right, this is what's happening. These are these characters. These are their villains. You just accept it. And so the same thing happened. And I probably read Nightwing number 41 probably like 10 times before the next issue came out. And I just was like, Nightwing's my favorite character. Just, he's the best thing ever. I love it. And since then, I've read every issue of Nightwing. Little caveat here. I've fallen off reading it monthly, so I'm behind. So I haven't technically read every issue according to this recording. But I've read all through the Tom Taylor stuff. So I'm really excited for the Dan Waters trade paperback to come out. I'm really excited for that. But he's my favorite character in DC. And I know that's kind of tricky when I say, like, I love Batman and I love Superman. Superman's my favorite superhero. Batman's my favorite character in fiction. But when it comes to my favorite DC character, it's Nightwing. And that's because reading Nightwing opened my eyes to the grander DC universe. Him being the leader of the Titans and him having guest stars like Wally West Flash show up in his book made me go, I kind of like this Flash character. I knew who the Flash was, but he's fun. I enjoyed it. And so, like in wrestling, you give him the rub. And so it opened up the idea. I'm like, maybe I'll check out the Flash, and because also in the Nightwing comic, Roy Harper, Arsenal at the time, now he's Red Arrow, would show up in the comic, and I was like, I really like this character, and so it kind of led to me reading Green Arrow, and through Green Arrow, I then read Green Lantern, and then through Flash, I started reading like Impulse, and then I was like, and so it kind of just like Nightwing is essentially my gateway drug to the DC universe, and to go back to Superman, on like learning that Nightwing got his name from Superman also opened up a little, like I didn't mention this in my Why I Love Superman thing, but knowing that Nightwing got his name from Superman made me a little more accepting as that hardcore Batman nerd who didn't like anything else to appreciate Superman a little bit more. And so Nightwing really opened up the world of the DC universe. And I feel like for a long time, he was kind of just like, oh yeah, he's Batman's first sidekick. And he's kind of like, he's got his own thing going on. Yeah, but it's just whatever. I feel like in the last like 5 or 6 years, people have really started to put respect on his name, with the Dark Crisis storyline, where they're like, we want you to lead all the main heroes. You are the guy you're the best of the old generation and the new generation. And so in my opinion, like, a lot of times people say like the DC Trinity is Wonder Woman, and I'm no disrespect to Wonder Woman, but like really, let's be honest, it's Batman, Superman, and Dick Grayson. Like, because what are the best selling comic books at DC? People want to pretend it's Wonder Woman, but it's not. It's Batman and Superman, and with Batman you get Robin. So it's Batman and Robin as Superman. We look at the world's finest, and so like, and when I think the world's finest, I do think Batman and Superman, but then like I also like have this like vision where it's like Dick Grayson's jumping in the background. He's like, hey, don't forget about me. I'm here too. And so that's who he is. He's like, Dick Grayson is, to me, he's the heart of DC Comics. And that's kind of why I love him. He's like, he kind of, for me, and I think a lot of other people, he's like a connective tissue to all different types of DC areas. And they kind of written him in a way where he's like everyone's friend, and like he just works so well. Like, he's lighthearted Batman. The way my friend Bruce and I talk about him is that like he is Batman's son, but he's much more influenced by his cool uncle Superman. And that's really why I love him, is because he's the combination of like my favorite character in fiction and my favorite superhero kind of all in one. And so that's why I love him. So that's all I got for today. So thanks for watching or listening, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.